10 superheroes, ranked, that were inspired by Superman. Superman wasn't just the first superhero, he is the blueprint. The archetype from which nearly every hero and villain since has been cast across every comic universe. He's the standard, the icon, the very definition of a superhero. But what happens when that blueprint is twisted, shattered, or flipped completely upside down? What happens when the idea of a god among us isn't a comfort, but a nightmare? From Marvel's own Dark Man of Steel to the most terrifying figures in modern comics, we're counting down 10 fascinating characters who owe their existence to Superman. You might be shocked to find out who's really a Superman in disguise. Introduction. Since his debut in 1938, Superman has become more than just a character. He's an archetype. The last son of a dying planet, sent to Earth, raised by good people, and grows up to be a symbol of hope with powers far beyond those of mortal men. That idea was so powerful, so resonant, that for decades other creators couldn't help but use it as a launchpad. Sometimes it was a loving homage. Other times it was a direct competitor trying to catch the same lightning in a bottle. And today it's often a tool for deconstruction, a way to explore the dark side of absolute power. Today we're looking at 10 characters who are, in one way or another, reflections of the Man of Steel. We'll check out the obvious copies, the old-school rivals, the modern critiques, and even the characters who carry his legacy in surprising ways. This isn't just a list of rip-offs. It's a tour through superhero history, all seen through the lens of its most important creation. Let's get started. Section 10. Number 10. Steel, John Henry Irons. Kicking off our list is a character born not from rivalry, but from respect. John Henry Irons, the hero known as Steel. Unlike most others on this list, Steel isn't an alien or a god. He's a man, a brilliant weapons engineer, horrified when one of his powerful energy cannons falls into the wrong hands. Faking his death, he starts over as a construction worker in Metropolis, where his life is changed forever when Superman himself saves him from a deadly fall. That single act of heroism leaves a huge mark on Irons. So, when Superman falls in battle against Doomsday, leaving the world without its champion, Irons refuses to let his symbol die. This was during the famous Death of Superman story, which led to 4 different Supermen trying to take his place. Driven by the debt he felt he owed, John Henry Irons forged a suit of powered armor that gave him flight, super strength, and durability. He put the S-shield on his chest, not to be Superman, but to honor him. He even carried a massive sledgehammer, a nod to the American folk hero John Henry, the steel-driving man. The media initially called him the Man of Steel, but he took the name Steel once the real Superman returned. What makes Steel so compelling is that he embodies Superman's spirit without any of his powers. He's proof that the most important part of Superman isn't his strength, but his ability to inspire. John Henry Irons saw the best of humanity in an alien, and his absence chose to become a symbol of hope himself, proving that anyone can be a Superman. Number 9. Shazam, Captain Marvel. Next up is a character whose history is so tangled with Superman that it literally ended in a courtroom. Originally known as Captain Marvel, he was created by Fawcett Comics in 1940 as a direct competitor to the Man of Steel. And for a while, he wasn't just competing. He was winning. At its peak, Captain Marvel Adventures was one of the best-selling comics in America, at times even outselling Superman's own titles. The similarities were pretty obvious. Like Superman, Captain Marvel had super strength, flight, and was nearly invulnerable. But his origin had a brilliant twist. He wasn't an alien, but a young boy named Billy Batson. By shouting the magic word Shazam, he could transform into the world's mightiest mortal. It was the ultimate kid's wish fulfillment. DC Comics, however, saw it as a little too close for comfort. They filed a copyright infringement lawsuit against Fawcett, claiming Captain Marvel was a direct copy of Superman. The legal battle dragged on for years, until a worn-down Fawcett Comics finally settled in 1953, agreeing to cease all publication of Captain Marvel comics. It was a huge victory for DC, knocking their biggest rival out of the game. In a wild twist, decades later, DC licensed and then bought Captain Marvel and his entire family, bringing them into the DC universe. Because Marvel Comics had created their own Captain Marvel in the meantime, he's now mostly just called Shazam. He is a unique case on this list, a character so successfully inspired by Superman that he became a threat, got taken down in court, and was eventually absorbed by his rival's universe. Section 8, Number 8. Supreme. Next up, we've got a wild one. When Supreme was first created by Rob Liefeld for Image Comics in 1992, he was the definition of a 90s antihero. A violent, arrogant version of Superman with all the power and none of the morals. For a few years, that's all he was, a gritty Superman for a cynical era. But then, in 1996, something amazing happened. The legendary writer Alan Moore, the same man who famously deconstructed superheroes in Watchmen, was handed the character. He decided to do the exact opposite. He wanted to reconstruct. He saw Supreme as a chance to pay tribute to the classic, imaginative Superman stories of the Silver Age that he felt had been forgotten. Starting with Supreme issue number 41, Moore completely rebooted the character. The violent anti-hero was now a mild-mannered artist named Ethan Crane, who could transform into the heroic Supreme. Moore threw out the grim and gritty past and built a massive new mythology full of loving homages to Superman's world. Supreme got his own Supergirl and his sister, Suprema, a superdog named Radar the Hound of Might, and even his own Fortress of Solitude called the Citadel Supreme. The stories were no longer about bloody fights. They were a love letter to the creativity of 1950s and 60s Superman comics. Moore used Supreme to celebrate the very tropes he was famous for tearing down, showing just how versatile the Superman archetype can be. Section 7, Number 7, Blue Marvel, Adam Brashear. A lot of characters on this list use the Superman formula to ask what it means to have power. Blue Marvel uses it to ask what it means to be a black man with that power in America. Created by writer Kevin Grevioux, Dr. Adam Brashear is a Marine vet, a brilliant scientist, and a Korean War hero. In the 1960s, a lab accident involving antimatter granted him incredible powers: super strength, flight, invulnerability, and energy control. He becomes the Blue Marvel, a celebrated hero fighting for his country. But this is where the story takes a sharp, tragic turn from the classic Superman narrative. In a tough battle, his helmet gets damaged, revealing his identity to the world, and the world discovers their godlike protector is a black man. This is the early 1960s, a time of intense racial strife in America. The public reacts with fear and prejudice. In a heartbreaking scene, President John F. Kennedy personally asks Adam Brashear to retire, giving him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in private on the condition that he hang up the cape. Unlike Superman, who is almost universally loved, Blue Marvel is pushed into the shadows because of the color of his skin. He was a man who could supposedly split the moon in two, but he was defeated by the racism of his time. His story is a powerful what if that asks a vital question. What if Superman had landed in a world that wasn't ready to accept him? Blue Marvel's power set is a clear nod to Superman, but his story provides a crucial social commentary the original never could, making him a hero who is deeply human and incredibly relevant. Number 6, Gladiator, Kallark. At first glance, Gladiator looks like a textbook Superman clone from Marvel. He's got the super strength, speed, flight, heat vision. Even his name, Kallark, is a mashup of Superman's Kryptonian and human names, Kal-El and Clark Kent. Created by Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum, he was designed as a direct tribute to Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. But there's a fascinating twist to Gladiator that makes him uniquely Marvel. His powers are tied directly to his confidence. When he's completely sure of himself and his mission, his strength is practically limitless. But if his will wavers, if he starts to doubt himself, his powers fade fast, leaving him vulnerable. This psychological weakness is the exact opposite of Superman's external vulnerability to kryptonite. It grounds Gladiator's godlike abilities in a very human struggle, self-doubt. This is pure Marvel philosophy. While DC heroes are often gods trying to be human, Marvel heroes are humans struggling with godlike power. Gladiator is weakened by his own mind, not a green rock. This makes his fights not just physical, but internal. He's the leader of the Shi'ar Empire's Imperial Guard, their most powerful champion, yet his greatest enemy can be his own insecurity. It's a brilliant twist that turns a simple homage into a complex character. Mid-video CTA. All right, we're halfway through our list, and as you can see, Superman's shadow is long. From noble tributes to dark critiques, his influence is everywhere. If you're digging this dive into comic book history, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We've got a lot more videos on your favorite heroes and villains coming up, and you won't want to miss out. Now, back to the countdown. Section 5, Number 5, All Might, Toshinori Yagi. Next, we're re-hopping over to Japan to the world of manga and anime for a character who proves Superman's influence is global. All Might from My Hero Academia. In his world, All Might is the symbol of peace, a larger-than-life hero whose very presence inspires hope and makes everyone feel safe. Just like Superman, All Might has immense strength and speed, and he's the moral compass for his entire society. He's a massive inspiration for the next generation of heroes, especially the show's main character, Izuku Midoriya. His signature smile isn't just a personality quirk, it's a weapon. It's his version of the S-Shield, a symbol meant to reassure the innocent and tell villains that everything is going to be okay. But what makes All Might such a brilliant take is that he shows the physical and personal cost of being Superman. His power, one for all, isn't his own. It's a sacred torch passed from one generation to the next. Worse, a past injury means he can only hold his powerful form for a few hours a day. The rest of the time, he's a frail, skeletal man. This creates a deep vulnerability. He's a god who is literally dying from the strain of his own heroism. All Might embodies Superman's ideals and symbolic importance, but grounds them in a deeply moving story about sacrifice, mentorship, and legacy that is all his own. Number 4, Sentry, Robert Reynolds. Marvel has a few answers to Superman, but none are as tragic or terrifying as the Sentry. Created in 2000, Robert Reynolds is a man with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, giving him a power set nearly identical to Superman's flight, invulnerability, and so on. He even has a big S on his belt. But that's where the similarities end. The Sentry isn't a story about an alien Boy Scout. It's a psychological horror story about a broken man. Robert Reynolds is plagued by crippling anxiety and agoraphobia. And the reason for his instability is the core of his character, the Void. The Void is the Sentry's dark half, a shadowy monster of equal or greater power that is tied directly to him. For every good deed the Sentry does, the Void will eventually emerge to commit an equally horrific act of evil. This creates an awful paradox. For Robert, being a hero is a curse. To save the world, he has to erase himself from it. His greatest act of heroism was making the whole world, including himself, forget he ever existed, neutralizing both the Sentry and the Void. His story deconstructs the Superman archetype through the lens of mental illness. What if a hero with the power to save the world was also his own greatest villain? The Sentry is Marvel's Superman, but filtered through a nightmare. Section 3, Number 3, Hyperion. If the Sentry is Marvel's psychological answer to Superman, then Hyperion is their most direct, literal one. There have been countless versions of Hyperion over the years, but pretty much all of them are pastiches of the Man of Steel. The very first one debuted in 1969 as a villain and leader of the Squadron Sinister, a clear ripoff of DC's Justice League. The parallels are blatant and on purpose. The most well-known Hyperion, Mark Milton, is the last survivor of a dead world, sent to Earth as a baby and raised by human parents. Sound familiar? His powers come from absorbing cosmic radiation, which is just like Superman absorbing solar radiation. His powers are a one-to-one match: super strength, flight, and atomic vision, which is just heat vision with a different name. Hyperion is basically what you get when you file the serial numbers off Superman and drop him in the Marvel Universe. He's been a noble hero, a brutal dictator, and a lost soul trying to find his way. He's a tool that lets Marvel writers play with Superman-level power without calling DC for permission. He's not a deep deconstruction or a heartfelt tribute like others on this list. He is a direct copy, an echo, and the clearest example of a character who owes his entire existence to the Man of Steel. Section 2, Number 2, Omni-Man, Nolan Grayson. No modern evil Superman has captured our imagination quite like Omni-Man. As the father of the hero from the Invincible series, Nolan Grayson seems to be the world's greatest protector. He's a Viltrumite, an alien from a planet of superbeings, who came to Earth to use his powers for the good of mankind. He marries a human, has a son, and for years, he plays the perfect hero. Then comes one of the most shocking twists in comics history. It turns out, Nolan wasn't sent to Earth to protect it, but to conquer it. The Viltrumites aren't peaceful scientists like Kryptonians. They're a merciless race of conquerors. Omni-Man isn't a savior. He's an advanced scout for an invasion. The reveal culminates with him brutally murdering his world's version of the Justice League. Omni-Man is the ultimate subversion of the Superman origin. What if the alien who arrived on Earth wasn't a baby sent to be a symbol of hope, but a soldier sent to dominate? In fact, early concept art shows the character was originally named Superman and had an S on his chest, but the name was changed over fears it was too close to DC's trademark. Omni-Man's story explores themes of duty versus family and nature versus nurture, and he has become the poster child for the evil Superman. Archetype a chilling look at what happens when the world's greatest hero is secretly its greatest threat. Section 1, Number 1, The Plutonian. While Omni-Man shows us what happens if Superman was never good in the first place, our number 1 pick asks an even scarier question. What happens when the world's greatest, most noble hero, a true symbol of hope just ... snaps? That's the terrifying premise of Mark Waid's brilliant series, Irredeemable, and its main character, the Plutonian. He was his world's Superman in every way. The most powerful and beloved hero on the planet, a global icon of truth and justice. And then, one day, he starts slaughtering everyone. He crushes cities, murders millions, and systematically hunts down his former friends and teammates. The series is a slow-burn mystery that uncovers why. It reveals that it wasn't one single thing that made him break, but a lifetime of crushing pressure and emotional isolation. As a child, he lived in constant fear of his own power, shuttled between foster homes that were terrified of him. As an adult, his heroism wasn't driven by pure goodness, but by a desperate, bottomless need to be loved, a need humanity could never truly fill. The Plutonian's fall from grace is the ultimate deconstruction of the Superman myth. It takes every part of Superman's character and examines the unbearable psychological burden that would come with it. The Plutonian is what Superman would be without the loving upbringing of the Kents, without his unshakable moral compass. He is the horrifying answer to the question, what if Superman went insane? For being the most terrifying and insightful examination of the dark side of the Superman archetype, the Plutonian is at the top of our list. Conclusion. From the noble legacy of Steel to the horrifying breakdown of the Plutonian, Superman's influence is as huge as it is undeniable. He's more than just the first. He is the template. This list shows that his archetype is a powerful tool, used for earnest tributes like All Might and Supreme, or for sharp social commentary like Blue Marvel. Characters like Hyperion and Sentry show how Marvel has repeatedly tried to create its own Man of Steel, each with a unique, often troubled, twist. And modern characters like Omni-Man and The Plutonian have used the archetype to explore our deepest fears about absolute power, giving us some of the most compelling superhero stories in recent memory. In the end, every one of these characters, hero, villain, or something in between, just highlights what makes Superman himself so enduring. They are the reflections, the echoes, and the dark mirrors that remind us of the power of the original. Superman's greatest legacy isn't just his own stories, but all the stories he inspired. And that's our list. But this is a huge topic. Who do you think is the most interesting Superman-inspired character? Did we miss one of your favorites? Let us know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of comics. Thanks for watching.